Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, 18 Hours daily initiative that celebrates the undying entrepreneurial spirit of micro, small and medium enterprises. This is the only daily MSME platform or show where you can get in touch with us to voice your concerns and get answers to every aspect of your business directly from our team of experts. Today, I'm in conversation with Sharad Sanghi. He is the founder and MD and CEO of Netmagic. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, Sharad. Let me kick this conversation off by asking you to talk to our viewers very briefly about what you do at Netmagic.
So, Netmagic provides mission-critical managed IT infrastructure services to its clients. We have about 2,000 customers in India, where we provide managed data center services, cloud services, and remote infrastructure management services to our customers. A lot of the main segments that we target include banking and financial services. We include small, medium enterprises for our cloud offering. And we also target manufacturing companies, media and entertainment companies, and e-commerce companies. These are our main sectors where we provide these services.
You're in a very interesting space, if I may say so, because we get a lot of questions on a call-in show that we have here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. And while, other queries, whether it's related to finance or whether it's related to hiring, are very technical in nature, we get very basic questions when it comes to IT. Most of the viewers who write into us or call us tell us that we don't know what it takes to become, a fully technologically savvy enterprise or an MSME and be able to use technology, be able to use cloud, be able to use, even understand IoT maybe. What would you have to say to them?
I would, actually cloud is very good news for the MSMEs because the entire technology risk is now gone. Earlier, some of these small, medium enterprises had to invest in technology, invest in CapEx. Now that CapEx is replaced by OpEx. Secondly, if they made a mistake, let's say they tried a new application, it didn't work, their investment was sunk. Here, it's pay-per-use. So their investment is not sunk. If they find that they've made a mistake, they can just shut down their cloud services and move to something else. So the risk is gone. The OpEx is converted, the CapEx is converted to OpEx, and they get the latest because in cloud, the entire cloud business is such that you are always the onus is on the service provider to constantly refresh and update the technology. So the SME can focus on its core competence and not worry about the back-end infrastructure. So this is all very, very good news for them, and I would advise them not to worry about this and focus on the core competence. And the business is all about taking risk. The risk is minimized with cloud.
Okay, so there are 36 million MSMEs in India, and while a lot of the second and third generation of these companies do understand the importance of using more IT in their businesses, we still talk to a lot of the traditional companies, which are say in the manufacturing space and probably still being held by the founder. If there are 2 or 3 things that you would say as a checklist for companies which say that we need to use more IT, more technology in our businesses, what would it be?
So the first is that technology is no longer an enabler, it's a differentiator, right? If you don't adopt technology, your competition will eat you for lunch, right? So they have no choice but to adopt technology. Thanks to the advent of cloud, the risk of adopting technology has been mitigated to an extent that was never seen before. And we are seeing this happening in the market. SAP HANA and a lot of other services, specifically for the manufacturing segment, and this is for those companies that are promoter driven. The kind of adoption we've seen in the last 6 to 9 months is unprecedented. So I would just urge SMEs not to get worried about technology, but to adopt it. And there is enough choice available in India, different service providers, different technology available to them, but the risk is mitigated because of cloud computing.
Okay, so when you're saying risk is being mitigated, I also want to talk about costs. Very often we get asked about the costs which are associated, with moving a company to being more fully IT enabled. Would you say that that's a really redundant question because of cloud?
Yeah, see, costs, there's no free lunch. There is obviously costs associated with it. But if you look at the overall return on investment or overall cost of doing business, one is, of course, it's a mandatory. If you don't adopt technology, you will be obsolete. Second is even if you look at the cost, you're automating your processes, you're automating your business, you're actually saving cost because IT is going to be much cheaper than using technology. Automation is going to be much cheaper than just throwing bodies at it. right? So in both ways, it's actually beneficial for the SMEs, and we are seeing that trend across the country now.
I want to talk a little more about the journey of Netmagic. You started as an MSME. You're now over 1,100 people in the country. What has that been like?
So we started this. I started this company in my bedroom in 1998. Initially, it was a struggle to raise venture finance because 98 there was not so many venture capitalists in India. But by the year 2000, during the dot-com boom and subsequent bust, there were a lot of venture capital available to entrepreneurs. And we were lucky that we were funded by a very good set of venture capitalists, and we set up our first data center in India in the year 2000. Within I would say 9 months of our launch, the entire industry went bust. A lot of our customers could not pay us. People started doubting our model, thinking that because a lot of data centers in the US went bankrupt, and so there were some challenges that we faced in terms of raising finance. Ours is a capital intensive business because we are setting up data centers that host servers and IT infrastructure for our clients. Either we provide that infrastructure ourselves or clients bring the infrastructure to our data center. But either way, it's a very capital intensive business. And access to capital became a challenge in, I would say, in the 2001 to 2005-6 area time frame. But we focused on we knew fundamentally it's a very robust business model because you're saving costs for the customer, right? Your customer is focusing on his core competence, and you're saving his back-end IT infrastructure costs. Plus, you can deploy specialists that the customer cannot, and that cost of the specialists is shared across customers. So fundamentally, we believed in the model. We added managed services, so we managed the IT infrastructure. So we had a set of customers, and we just grew their revenue. And it was only a matter of time where the shift happened again, where people realized that fundamentally this is strong. It was also helped with the advent of cloud computing, where cloud became as I said, the various benefits, especially even not only for large enterprise but also for SMEs. And all these things kind of converged and helped us then now just take off from, I would say, from 2007 onwards. Subsequently, we had 2 rounds of private equity financing again. And in the year 2012, Entity Communications acquired majority stake in our company. And actually, that was also a very good milestone for us because till 2012, while we did a lot of good business in India, some of the very, very large companies were always hesitant working with a small player. And with Entity's balance sheet, that helped us a lot. And so now we work with the Fortune 500, not only in India, but also the world.
Okay, let me come back to talking to you about Entity and the investment that has come in. But you were saying that the period between 2001 to about 2005-06 was very challenging. What did that teach you?
One of the things it taught us was, to be fiscally prudent, right? Not waste. We never did. If you remember the 2000-2001 period, there were banner ads in virtually every billboard in town. I mean, people wasted a lot of money on, I would say flimsy advertising. I'm not saying marketing or advertising is bad, but it wasn't the right. A lot of money was spent without enough thought. People felt that, so ours is a business-to-business initiative, and so therefore we used a lot more innovative marketing channels. We used the internet, we used mailers, we did our own events, and so therefore that was one aspect of being fiscally prudent. Secondly, credit control. So we started looking at credit worthiness of customers and making sure that we don't extend credit periods to beyond a certain amount. So that was all in the fiscally prudent. The next thing was also that we need to upgrade our services. We cannot just be a commodity player and compete in the red ocean where we basically competing on price. We have to provide value that our competition can't. So that is another thing that we did in that period, and that is what has stood us in good stead all these years.
Okay. We love asking the entrepreneurs and the founders who come on our show whether it's necessary for companies to look at a change in business strategy if you hit a rough patch in your business, and no two answers are the same. What would you have to say to that?
So in our case, we believed in our model, so we didn't change course. We did do things like automation. So for example, I view cloud as an extension of our business where we've automated the provisioning of servers and made it faster for customers to adopt. Also changing our business model to the extent it's pay-per-use as opposed to long-term contracts. But fundamentally, we're still doing, we've stayed with the same business, right? Fundamentally, our business hasn't changed. Had I felt that our business model was wrong or our business was not adding value to the clients, maybe we could have looked at, pivoting, as they say. I believe there are companies in the e-commerce space that have claimed to pivot or change their way of doing business 4 or 5 times in the last 7 or 8 years.
Sharad, let's take a very quick break, in fact, at this point, but we'll continue this conversation with Netmagic on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and on MSME Dialogues tonight, I'm in conversation with Netmagic. Let's talk about government policy, particularly in a space like yours. Is there any government regulation that exists right now? And if not, your take on it?
Yeah, sure. So in the IT space, by and large, so really our business is classified into 2 categories. One is IT and one is telecom. In the IT space, by and large, there's very little regulation, other than maybe what is known as data sovereignty, where for certain kinds of sectors, like for example, banking and financial companies, and maybe certain kind of emails, and maybe some medical data, where the government either already mandates or is in the process of mandating that people host that data in India, so that the government has control. If they need to, if there's some abuse, then government can take action. If there's some compromise to national security, for example, government can take action. So I think that's fine, and that world over companies do it. I don't necessarily believe in forcing people to host in a particular geography, but obviously there are constraints that the government needs to mandate. So that actually helps us, but I'm fine even if that wasn't there, because we believe in winning on merit. In the telecom space, there's obviously the Department of Telecom and the TRAI that gets involved. But largely, again, if you look at just the pure ISP industry, the government is fairly liberal, I would say. If it comes to me, I would say the government shouldn't get involved in anything to do with internet or IT. They should just let the market decide. Of course, have some checks and balances for national security and matters of those importance. But I think largely I would say it's reasonably liberal, right? And I like that. I think that's the way it should be. And as technology changes, some of these regulations make us look like fools, right? Because you find that you've got a regulation that is no longer valid, and the time it takes to change the regulation could be very long. But fortunately, in our space, it's reasonably liberal, and I hope it stays that way. I was asked for feedback on cloud computing, whether the government should regulate. What my views were, I just said, that they shouldn't. I mean, just let the market decide. I think the government is mandating some bare minimum security guidelines, which is fine. But beyond that, I don't think there should be any regulation.
I agree completely that technology is changing much faster than any regulation can keep pace with. There's that whole back and forth in terms of legalities over voice over IP, like you were saying. The government is still undecided if an Ola and an Uber, whether they're technology companies or they're automobile companies. So there's a lot that still, I guess, a lot of technology, a lot of changes which are happening. But let me talk about GST and the kind of changes it will mean for your industry, and also whether you're possibly, that's an area that would interest you in terms of government work that you're doing.
Yeah. So first, in terms of GST itself, I think largely it's a good thing. Having one goods and services tax hopefully should simplify things in the long run. My only concern is more in the short term in how it's implemented. I hope in the aim of trying to get it done by July, we don't end up having some loose ends that get exploited. One of the things with the service tax earlier was there was a single authority you dealt with. Now you have the state in multiple cities, as well as the central service tax, central GST authority. And therefore, I think I'm a little skeptical in the short term, but I know that in the long term it will be a good thing. Once these initial issues are sorted out, I think in the long term it will be a good thing for us.
Even as the government is talking about Digital India, we're talking 4G right now. Till a few years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of data centers were not being hosted in India. But are you seeing changes happening on the ground, even as there seems to be a push from the top?
Absolutely. The infrastructure in India now is second to none in the world. You take Bombay, for example, Tata Power, their power uptime is better than even New York's, right? Now, I know that in other parts of India that still has to change, but data centers invest in power backup, they invest in generators, UPSs and things. So infrastructure in India now from an IT infrastructure perspective is second to none in the world. And this is borne out by a host of multinationals that have recently announced very, very large data centers in India, right? So that's one thing that has changed. It's always beneficial to host near your target audience. So if you're a multinational and you're targeting customers in India, you're better off hosting in India from a sheer latency perspective. So the time it takes for a request from your customer to hit your server and go back will obviously be shorter in India as opposed to it being somewhere else. Not to mention the data sovereignty angle that also comes into play. And therefore, it is always, we are now, so when I started the business, you're absolutely right. Most Indian companies used to host overseas. There were many reasons for that. One is quality of infrastructure in India. Second one was pricing. India was, believe it or not, more expensive. Cost of bandwidth was very high. Cost of power was also very high. A lot of that has changed. Power costs have, not grown as much. I mean, they're still higher than the West, but bandwidth costs have come down a lot. And services, India has always been more cost effective. And then, so I think as an overall, now it's become a lot more feasible even commercially for customers to host. So all major customers that used to host overseas that were Indian and were targeting Indian customers have pretty much moved to India.
Okay. As we're winding down this conversation, I want to talk about demonetization and whether you've seen any benefits coming out of that.
Yeah, so demonetization, I think, has helped us in because the entire move is now for digital payments. So a lot of the payment gateways and payment banks are our customers. So their business has grown. As they grow, we grow. We've also seen I don't know if it's a coincidence or it's a general trend of increase in traffic, but we've seen about a 15% increase in traffic since November 8th to now. So that's a good thing for us. It may impact some of our customers negatively also. There have been some SMEs that have been impacted by it, but I think this is short term. I think in long term, since there's a move towards going digital, right? That's only all these digital payment gateways and servers have to be hosted in data centers. So I think for the industry as a whole, it's a huge positive.
Okay. Is there any one piece of advice that you'd want to leave our viewers with? Something that has perhaps been given to you that has changed the way that you think about your business?
So I think, we went through, as I said in the beginning of this interview, that we went through some tough times in 2001. We had reached a stage, I didn't mention this, but we had reached a stage where we had just about 19-20 lakhs left in the bank, and it's a capital intensive business. We had a firm belief that our business model was robust, and as long as you believe in what you're doing, and put in the hard work, things work out for you. I believe genuine effort, hard work, and belief in yourself pays in the long run.
All right, a quick last word then. As we end this interview, what's the way forward looking like for you?
So way forward is very interesting times. We have multiple cloud providers, for example, that are coming to the country. We've recognized that we are not going to be the only cloud service provider in India as the global players have started entering India. So what we've come up with is a cross cloud management platform. So where customers can choose the provider of their choice, but they have one common window through which they can manage all their infrastructure across cloud providers. We are focusing a lot on cybersecurity, for example. With this move going to digital, as you asked me, there's going to be a lot of cyber attacks, if you will, because now more and more of India's assets, if you will be hosted online. And therefore, we expect, we've already seen this, and we expect more cyber attacks, as you've seen in the West, to happen in India as well. So our focus is on computer security. A lot of we've had some cyclones and storms and floods over the last few years. India always faces that in different parts of the country, and so disaster recovery and business continuity is another focus for us, which we are focusing on. And so we continue to expand, We're building 2 large data centers in Mumbai and Bangalore, and our aim, I don't see, I see this business growing the way it's been growing for the last few years, for the next few years as well. So very interesting times, but obviously with now global competition and not just domestic competition.
Sharad, thank you very much for speaking with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. That was an expert view in terms of cloud IT for you, the MSME entrepreneur. If you have any questions about any aspect of your business or want to know more about how you can also move on to a cloud platform, do write in to us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can personally tweet at me. In fact, it's Sunanda_J. You can reach us on social media using the hashtag LOT or call us on that number you see flashing on your screen. We promise to have all your questions answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.